The unexpected encounter. The harsh winds of Epsilon 9 whipped across the metallic landscape, carrying particles of rust-colored dust that constantly threatened to clog the intricate filtration systems of the colony's outer settlements. Elena Rodriguez adjusted her protective gear, her gloved hands carefully maneuvering the complex hydraulic repair mechanism that controlled the primary water recycling unit. At 35, Elena had spent the last decade of her life on this remote mining colony, far from the crowded megacities of Earth. Her expertise in environmental engineering made her invaluable to the small community of settlers who called this unforgiving planet home. The constant battle against the planet's aggressive environment had become her life's work, a challenge she embraced with unwavering determination. The colony's survival depended on maintaining delicate systems that transformed the planet's scarce resources into livable conditions. Each day was a testament to human resilience, a continuous struggle against an environment that seemed intent on rejecting their presence. Elena understood this better than most, having lost her partner 3 years earlier to a catastrophic system failure that nearly decimated their primary oxygen production facility. As she worked, the distant alarm of the perimeter sensors caught her attention. Most times, these alerts were triggered by mineral storms or equipment malfunctions. But something about this particular signal felt different. The frequency was irregular, almost desperate. Elena switched on her long-range communication device. "Control, this is Rodriguez. I'm picking up an unusual perimeter signal on grid sector 7. Can you confirm?" Static crackled for a moment before a response came through. "Negative, Rodriguez. Our systems show no anomalies in Sector 7. Something didn't feel right." Elena's years of experience had taught her to trust her instincts. She secured her repair tools and activated her environmental suit's full protection mode. The lightweight yet incredibly resilient material adjusted to her movements, its smart fabric technology protecting her from the planet's harsh conditions. As she approached the sector in question, the landscape transformed. What had been a uniform expanse of rocky terrain now showed signs of recent disturbance. Shallow trenches cut through the ground, and several large rocks appeared to have been recently displaced. Then she saw it. Partially buried beneath a sharp-edged boulder was a form that was distinctly not part of the natural landscape. At first, Elena thought it might be a piece of fallen equipment, but as she drew closer, she realized it was something entirely different. A creature lay trapped, its body a complex arrangement of biomechanical components that seemed to blur the line between organic life and advanced technology. Its outer layer shimmered with an iridescent quality, shifting colors like a living kaleidoscope. Numerous appendages were tangled beneath the boulder, and what appeared to be sensory nodes pulsed with a faint, intermittent light. Elena's training kicked in. Whether this was a life form or an advanced piece of technology, it was clearly in distress. She carefully approached, her suit's diagnostic systems already scanning for potential threats or environmental hazards. "Hello," she called out, her voice calm and measured. "I'm going to help you. Don't move." The creature's response was not verbal, but a complex series of light pulses and a low, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through the very ground. Elena recognized it as a form of communication, though its exact meaning remained unclear. With practiced precision, she activated her suit's hydraulic assist mechanism. The powerful exoskeletal support allowed her to carefully lift the boulder, creating just enough space to extract the trapped being. As the creature emerged, Elena realized this was no ordinary rescue. Whatever this was, it represented something far beyond her current understanding, a discovery that could change everything about their understanding of life in the universe. Little did she know, this moment would be the beginning of an extraordinary journey that would challenge everything she believed about survival, cooperation, and the boundaries of intelligence. The mysterious request. The medical bay of the Epsilon 9 colony hummed with the soft, rhythmic sounds of diagnostic equipment. Elena watched carefully as the alien creature, if it could be called that, slowly came into a state of apparent consciousness. Its biomechanical form seemed to pulse with an inner light, shifting between hues of deep blue and silvery green. Dr. Marcus Kimura, the colony's lead xenobiologist, stood nearby, his augmented reality display casting a soft holographic glow across his concentrated features. "I've never seen anything like this," he muttered, more to himself than to Elena. "The physiological structure is unlike any known life form in our database." Elena leaned forward, her reflection visible in the medical bay's reinforced glass. The creature's sensory nodes flickered in what seemed to be a deliberate pattern. "It's communicating," she said quietly. "But not in any way we traditionally understand communication." The medical bay's advanced translation systems struggled to make sense of the being's signals. Sporadic bursts of electromagnetic pulses and subtle color changes seemed to carry meaning, but deciphering that meaning proved challenging. Dr. Kimura adjusted his neural interface, specialized implants allowing him to process complex data streams more efficiently. "The molecular composition is extraordinary. It's not just a life form, it's more like a living technology. Imagine a being that is simultaneously an organism and a complex computational system." As if responding to their discussion, the creature's form began to stabilize. Its appendages, which defied traditional anatomical classification, realigned themselves with increasing precision. A low, harmonic frequency began to emanate from its core, creating vibrations that seemed to resonate with the very infrastructure of the medical bay. Suddenly, a holographic projection emerged directly from the creature's central mass. It wasn't a traditional image, but a complex three-dimensional representation that seemed to shift and evolve with each passing moment. Fragmented scenes flickered, landscapes of impossible geometry, glimpses of technologies far beyond human comprehension, and what appeared to be fragments of a narrative too complex to immediately understand. "It's trying to communicate its story," Elena whispered, her background in environmental engineering suddenly feeling inadequate in the face of this extraordinary encounter. The holographic narrative suggested a desperate journey. The being had traveled across vast interstellar distances, pursued by some unknown threat. Its mission seemed critical, though the specific details remained frustratingly obscure. What was clear was a sense of urgency, a mission that required immediate action. Dr. Kimura's translation algorithms began to construct partial meaning. Threat, preservation, critical knowledge, survival. The words emerged fragmented, like pieces of a complex puzzle. Elena noticed something peculiar. Embedded within the holographic projection were what seemed to be star charts, but not of any known galactic region. These were navigation systems that suggested travel through regions of space that human science had not yet mapped or even theorized about. "We need to understand its language," Elena said, her mind racing. "Traditional communication methods won't work here." Dr. Kimura nodded, already accessing the colony's most advanced linguistic and communication protocols. "We'll need to create a custom interface. Something that can interpret multidimensional communication patterns." Over the next several hours, Elena and Dr. Kimura worked tirelessly. They developed a specialized neural holographic interface that could potentially bridge the communication gap. The alien being, which they had begun to refer to as the quantum entity, seemed to be cooperating, its biomechanical form adjusting and responding to their technological probes. As dawn broke over Epsilon 9's harsh landscape, a breakthrough occurred. The quantum entity projected a series of images that began to make sense. It was requesting assistance, but not just any assistance. The mission it proposed was nothing short of extraordinary. A massive technological archive was at risk. Not on a planet, not in a traditional star system, but in a region of space that existed in a state of quantum flux. The archive contained knowledge that could fundamentally alter the understanding of life, technology, and existence itself. "It needs us to help retrieve this archive," Elena realized. But why us? Why this colony? The holographic projection shifted, revealing glimpses of previous encounters, civilizations that had failed, technological attempts that had collapsed. Somehow, the combination of human adaptability and the specific environmental conditions of Epsilon 9 made this colony unique. Dr. Kimura's analysis confirmed something profound. The colony's unique electromagnetic signature, combined with our advanced environmental adaptation technologies, makes us the ideal candidates for this mission. The request was clear, yet impossibly complex. They would need to navigate regions of space that defied traditional physics, use technologies that were barely comprehensible, and face challenges that would test the very limits of human capability. Elena felt a familiar surge of determination. This was more than a scientific expedition, this was a chance to push the boundaries of human potential. The same spirit that had driven her to survive on this unforgiving planet now called her to an even greater challenge. "We'll need a specialized team," she said, her voice steady and resolute. "And we'll need to prepare in ways we've never prepared before." The quantum entity's response was a harmonious pulse of light and sound, something that felt remarkably like agreement. Their journey was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same. Preparation and challenges. The command center of Epsilon 9 buzzed with an electric tension that defied the colony's typically methodical atmosphere. Elena stood before a holographic display, her fingers tracing complex trajectories that represented potential mission paths through uncharted quantum spatial regions. Commander Adriana Reyes, head of colony operations, looked skeptical. "We're talking about risking our entire research team on a mission based on communication with an entity we barely understand." Dr. Marcus Kimura stepped forward, his neural interface flickering with cascading data streams. "The potential knowledge we could retrieve is unprecedented. This isn't just about exploration, it's about survival." The archive the quantum entity described could contain technological solutions to challenges we've been facing for generations. The team assembled represented the colony's most versatile minds. Kai Wong, a quantum navigation specialist, had spent years developing theories about traversing multidimensional space. Aria Rodriguez, a biomechanical engineer and Elena's younger cousin, brought expertise in adaptive technologies that could potentially interface with the quantum entity's complex systems. "We'll need to modify our primary research vessel," Kai explained, bringing up a holographic model of their ship. "Traditional propulsion systems won't work in the regions we're discussing. We'll need to integrate quantum entanglement drives, technology that's theoretical at best." The quantum entity, now partially integrated into the colony's communication systems, projected additional schematics. Its biomechanical form pulsed with intricate light patterns that seemed to dance between the holographic displays, offering glimpses of technologies far beyond human comprehension. Elena noticed something extraordinary. The entity wasn't just providing information, it was actively collaborating, adapting its communication to help the human team understand the mission's complexity. The archive exists in a state of quantum flux, the entity's communication translated. Traditional navigation is impossible. You will need to become more than observers, you must become participants in the navigation itself. Aria Rodriguez examined the projected schematics with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "It's suggesting we'll need neural interfaces that can directly interact with quantum spatial variations. This isn't just advanced technology, this is a fundamental reimagining of how consciousness interfaces with spacetime." The preparation became an intricate dance of technological innovation and human adaptability. Each team member underwent intensive neural recalibration, their existing technological implants modified to handle the extreme conditions of the proposed journey. Commander Reyes remained pragmatic. "We need contingency plans. Multiple fail-safe protocols. Whatever we're attempting, we can't risk the entire colony's survival on a single mission." A specialized training program was developed. Simulated quantum navigation scenarios pushed the team's capabilities to their absolute limits. They practiced maintaining cognitive coherence while their neural interfaces translated impossible spatial geometries into comprehensible information. The most challenging aspect was learning to communicate with the quantum entity. It wasn't just about receiving information, it was about developing a symbiotic relationship that allowed for instantaneous adaptive response. During one particularly intense training session, Kai Wong experienced a breakthrough. By allowing his neural interface to function less like a traditional computer and more like a dynamic, responsive system, he discovered a way to partially synchronize with the entity's communication patterns. It's not translation, he explained to the team. It's more like simultaneous interpretation. We're not just receiving information, we're participating in its transmission. The colony's resources were pushed to their absolute limit. Specialized quantum resonance chambers were constructed. Advanced energy generation systems were modified to provide the massive power required for their proposed journey. Weeks turned into months. The mission's preparation became an obsession for the team. They were no longer just researchers or explorers, they were becoming something entirely new. The line between human technology and the quantum entity's advanced systems began to blur. Elena found herself at the center of this transformation. Her background in environmental engineering proved unexpectedly valuable. The ability to understand complex systemic interactions translated remarkably well to the quantum navigation challenges they faced. We're not just preparing for a mission, she told her team during one critical briefing. We're preparing to expand the very definition of human potential. The quantum entity seemed to resonate with her words, its biomechanical form pulsing with a harmonious frequency that felt remarkably like agreement. As their launch window approached, the mood in the colony was a complex mixture of anticipation and anxiety. They were preparing to venture into regions of space that existed more as a concept than a physical reality. The mission could either represent humanity's greatest leap forward or its most spectacular failure. Commander Reyes made one final inspection of the modified research vessel. Its exterior now incorporated bioadaptive materials that seemed to breathe and shift, integrated directly with systems provided by the quantum entity. "Are we ready?" she asked, looking at Elena. Elena gazed at the holographic displays, at the team that had become more than colleagues, they had become a unified organism of human and quantum technologies. "We're ready," she responded, her voice steady and resolute. Their journey into the unknown was about to begin. The perilous journey. The moment of quantum transition was nothing like any of them had anticipated. As the modified research vessel, now more of a living technology than a traditional spacecraft, crossed the threshold between known space and the quantum realm, reality itself seemed to fracture and reassemble. Elena gripped the neural interface, her consciousness simultaneously experiencing multiple dimensional states. It wasn't just observation, it was participation. The vessel's bioadaptive hull responded to thoughts before they could fully form, creating protective membranes that shifted and pulsed with an almost organic rhythm. "Spatial coordinates are nonlinear," Kai Wong muttered, his voice strained. The quantum navigation systems were pushing the limits of human comprehension. What appeared on their displays was less a map and more a living, breathing representation of spacetime that defied traditional understanding. The quantum entity, now fully integrated with their systems, provided guidance that was more intuitive than instructional. Waves of complex information washed through their neural interfaces, not as data, but as experience. They were experiencing the journey as much as navigating it. Aria Rodriguez monitored the ship's biomechanical systems, her hands moving in intricate gestures that seemed to communicate directly with the vessel's adaptive technologies. "We're maintaining quantum coherence," she reported, "but the energy expenditure is exponential." Suddenly, a disruption. A quantum anomaly materialized around them, not an obstacle, but a living barrier of impossible geometries and shifting probabilities. Traditional evasive maneuvers would be useless. This was a challenge that required them to fundamentally reimagine their approach. "It's a defensive mechanism," the quantum entity's communication translated. "Protection for the archive we seek." Commander Reyes understood immediately. This wasn't just a physical barrier, it was a test. The archive they were pursuing was protected by a system that would only reveal itself to those capable of true understanding. Elena felt a moment of profound connection. The barrier wasn't something to be conquered, but something to be understood. She closed her eyes, allowing her neural interface to expand beyond traditional cognitive limitations. The barrier began to respond. Fractals of impossible complexity started to form around their vessel. Colors that had no place in the visible spectrum danced across their perception. The team experienced multiple potential paths simultaneously, each decision creating and collapsing potential realities. "We're not navigating," Kai realized, his voice a mixture of wonder and terror. "We're negotiating." The quantum barrier was alive in a way that defied traditional understanding of consciousness. It was testing them, probing their intentions, their capabilities, their very essence as a species. Dr. Marcus Kimura's neural interface began to translate the most profound communication they had experienced yet. The barrier was showing them glimpses, fragments of civilizations that had attempted this journey before. Technological species that had failed, their consciousness scattered across quantum probabilities. Each failure was a lesson. Each collapsed potential a warning. Aria's hands moved with increasing complexity, her biomechanical adaptations allowing her to interface more directly with the quantum systems. "We need to demonstrate our collective intention," she said. "Not as individual beings, but as a unified consciousness." The team began to synchronize. Their neural interfaces aligned, creating a collective consciousness that was greater than their individual capabilities. They weren't just observing the quantum barrier, they were becoming part of its complex system of evaluation. Hours became meaningless. Time itself was a fluid concept in this realm. The vessel moved and didn't move. They were simultaneously traveling and remaining completely still. A breakthrough came not through technological might, but through a profound moment of collective understanding. The barrier wasn't a challenge to be overcome, it was a guardian protecting knowledge too profound for unprepared civilizations. Elena found herself experiencing multiple perspectives simultaneously. She was the navigator, the vessel, the barrier, the archive they sought, all at once. "We understand," she heard herself say, though the communication transcended traditional language. The quantum barrier began to dissolve, revealing layers of reality that human science had never conceived possible. Fragments of knowledge older than entire civilizations began to crystallize around them. But their journey was far from over. A new challenge emerged. Something was tracking them. A predatory consciousness that existed between quantum states, a hunter of knowledge-seeking entities that had pursued countless civilizations across incomprehensible distances. "We're not alone," Kai warned, his neural interface capturing traces of a pursuing consciousness that defied traditional understanding. The team's unity would be tested like never before. The archive they sought was close, but the final approach would require them to push beyond every known limitation of human potential. Commander Reyes looked at Elena, a silent understanding passing between them. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. The quantum realm around them began to shift, preparing for the ultimate confrontation. Revelation and resolution. The pursuing consciousness revealed itself not as a physical threat, but as a complex quantum predator that consumed knowledge itself. It moved through reality like a virus, consuming the potential of civilizations that dared to seek profound understanding. "It's a quantum parasitic intelligence," Dr. Marcus Kimura translated through his increasingly strained neural interface. "It doesn't just destroy, it assimilates and neutralizes potential." The team's collective consciousness was their only defense. Elena found herself at the epicenter of a battle that transcended traditional concepts of conflict. Their unity became a shield, their collective intention a weapon more powerful than any technological system. Aria Rodriguez's biomechanical adaptations began to resonate with the quantum entity, creating a complex defensive matrix that pushed back against the predatory intelligence. "We're not just resisting," she said, her voice vibrating with an otherworldly frequency, "we're rewriting the fundamental rules of engagement." The archive they sought was now visible, a crystalline structure of pure information that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. It was knowledge in its most fundamental form, a repository of understanding that could transform entire civilizations. But the quantum predator wanted to consume it. Kai Wong's quantum navigation skills became their primary offensive strategy. He began to manipulate the very fabric of their quantum environment, creating probability cascades that confused and fragmented the pursuing intelligence. "We can't defeat it through conventional means," Kai explained, his consciousness stretched across multiple dimensional states. "We need to make our potential so complex, so unpredictable, that it becomes impossible to consume." The quantum entity, which had guided them this far, now merged more completely with their collective consciousness. It was no longer just a guide, it was a participant in their survival. Commander Reyes understood the stakes immediately. This wasn't just about protecting an archive of knowledge. This was about proving the potential of their species, demonstrating that humanity was more than just a collection of individual beings, but a collective consciousness capable of transcending traditional limitations. Elena experienced a moment of profound revelation. The archive wasn't just a repository of information, it was a test. A challenge presented to civilizations to determine their worthiness of advanced knowledge. The quantum predator attacked. Not with weapons, but with waves of potential negation. It sought to collapse their very existence into a singularity of non-potential. Entire possible futures were consumed in milliseconds, realities blinking out of existence. But the human team held firm. Their collective consciousness became a complex algorithm of survival. Each team member contributed something unique: Kai's navigational brilliance, Aria's biomechanical adaptability, Dr. Kimura's analytical precision, Commander Reyes's strategic thinking, and Elena's holistic understanding. The quantum entity amplified their collective potential, creating a defensive matrix that was simultaneously a weapon, a shield, and a statement of existence. "We are more than the sum of our parts," Elena communicated, her message resonating across quantum frequencies. The predatory intelligence hesitated. For the first time in its existence, it encountered a collective consciousness that refused to be categorized, consumed, or neutralized. Fractal defenses erupted around them. Possible futures branched and rebranched, creating a complex web of potential that the quantum predator couldn't penetrate. It was like watching a living, breathing defense mechanism that constantly reinvented itself. Hours became meaningless. Their battle occurred across multiple dimensional states, with realities collapsing and reforming in complex patterns that defied traditional understanding. And then, suddenly, stillness. The archive's crystalline structure began to resonate. Knowledge, pure, unfiltered, profound, started to transfer. Not as data, but as experience. The team experienced the collected understanding of civilizations that had risen and fallen across unimaginable spans of time and space. The quantum predator was not destroyed, but transformed. Confronted with a consciousness it couldn't comprehend, it retreated, not in defeat, but in a form of quantum recalibration. When awareness returned, they found themselves changed. The archive had chosen them, not just to receive knowledge, but to become its guardians. "We've been entrusted with something extraordinary," Commander Reyes said, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and responsibility. The quantum entity's final communication was both a warning and a blessing. The knowledge they had received was a seed, a potential that would require generations to fully understand and implement. As their vessel began its return journey to Epsilon 9, Elena looked at her team. They were no longer just researchers or explorers. They were something more, a bridge between what humanity was and what it could become. The archive's knowledge hummed within their collective consciousness, a promise of transformative potential waiting to be unleashed. Their journey had changed everything.